when we talk about business, you can't just be a kind or a nice person. You also need to think about the bottom line. That's what business is. So I can say all day long, you should be a nice person, you should be kind, but that doesn't mean you're going to make money. But when you look at the academic research, yes, it builds loyalty, builds innovation, and those are the things we care about in business.
Welcome to the Kindness Podcast. I'm Nicole Phillips. Today's guest is Amanda Fornal, an executive coach and a startup advisor, and the founder of Investing in Kindness, which is a global research project. As part of that research, she has interviewed more than 100 leaders, founders, and investors from more than 35 countries. You get around, Amanda. Wow. She is at the forefront of exploring the role kindness plays in leadership, business, and investment. And this episode is about what happens when you stop treating kindness as just a nice idea and you start treating it as serious business. Amanda, I'm so glad you're here. Do you take offense that I say you get around?
Now, should I? I didn't, but now you got me thinking, okay.
That's right. We are going to have fun today talking about this. I need to know this, 100 leaders, founders, investors, 35 countries. What possessed you to go on this massive research project about kindness?
Yeah, I'd say there's many pieces that all come together that drove this. I love research in general. That's a thing. So, another project I did over 600 interviews about love. And I did those all face to face. And so that was a lot, right? So I know what it takes to interview people around the world. And that was from 75 countries, a lot of stuff going in. And so I'm just always thinking about what's the next research project that I can do to support something positive. And I was on a panel and South by Southwest in the German House. And it was about women in innovation. And they asked me a question. It was just fairly simple. What gets you up in the morning? And I was like, to do good, right? That just came out of my mouth. I was like, I want to do good. And then I was like, you know what? Something happened a couple days ago. And there was this VC who talked about investing in sociopathic founders instead of kind founders. And that just didn't feel great to me. It didn't feel logical, and emotionally didn't feel great either, right? So neither side of my brain was happy about the situation. And I brought it up on the talk and I said, I'm kind and I'm proud of it. And if you don't want to invest in kindness, that's on you. And basically all we have is our humanity. All we have is each other. And, a few days later, I was like, I like that saying. I said, investing in kindness. That's my next project. That's it. It's happening. A couple days later, built the website, put it up, and started interviewing people immediately. And I love stories. I love hearing what people have to say and learning from them, but also elevating their story so others can hear about them. So when I interview them, I write blogs about a lot of them and I share their stories because that's the only way we learn is sharing the information with each other. So I was inspired by a negative comment where a lot of great projects are inspired by negative things and we can do with that what we want. And for me, it was to promote the good.
It's like the flip of the script, right? How do I want to look at this? What lens do I want to put in this? And do I want to sit around and be angry about the fact that people are investing in sociopaths? Or am I willing to say, wait a minute, maybe there's another way to look at this? That's fantastic. Were there some story? Yeah.
I would say it's also the truth, right? That's the thing. When somebody says that, it doesn't make it right just because they have a big stage. So before I started the project, my idea was, I believe in my heart, it doesn't mean my brain is correct. I believe that when we are good to our employees, when we invest in the right companies, there is a financial benefit and a long-term benefit. And I didn't know if I was going to be right. So then I dove into the academic research, and I am right? When you invest in the good, when you are kind leaders, you build loyalty, you build companies. So it's important to know that it's not about just being kind. It's also about the bottom line. Because when we talk about business, you can't just be a kind or a nice person. You also need to think about the bottom line. That's what business is. So I can say all day long, you should be a nice person, you should be kind, but that doesn't mean you're going to make money. But when you look at the academic research, yes, it builds loyalty, builds innovation, and those are the things we care about in business.
Do you have numbers to put behind that, Amanda?
I can share the research documents. I didn't do the academic research, but I support those in my blog, so I can send you the links to those and you can read about and then link into all of those research documents. And then what I'm doing is doing supplemental stories based on what we know is truth. How does this look in real life? Because often people don't read academic research and people want to know experiences. So, hey, we know that this has been looked at, but tell me about your experience. Tell me the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So tell it all. It's not always puppy dogs and rainbows, but let's learn from the negative experiences and understand how we can be better.
Okay, so we'll drop the document in the show notes. People can go do deep dives if they want to, and we'll talk about stories here because I love a good story. Do you have some that have stuck with you as you have done this project?
Yeah, I'd say a few that are always really strong is if somebody is having a problem, right? So you can always show up when there's no issues. It's who you are when the shit hits the fan, right? That's what it is. And so when you have someone tell a story of how they had a family member ill or they were ill and their company really showed up for them and said, how can we help? And they said, you cannot understand the loyalty I feel for this company right now, right? And those things are very powerful because when you're loyal, you're willing to look at that company as your company, right? You're going to say, I want to be the best employee. I want to give them my all because they were there for me when I needed them. So sometimes you don't even know that until after, versus I've seen people say the opposite. This woman was ill. She left. She had a really challenging time. When she came back, nobody even acknowledged it. They're just like, back to work. And so you hear those two stories and you hear the side where I couldn't do enough for this company. I want them to succeed. They're amazing versus, well, they treated me really poorly or they treated this person really poorly. And I don't feel great about this company. Like, I'm not going to do everything in my power to help this company because they're not there for their people.
And do you think that that is a culture that starts at the top with leadership? Because I would imagine if you have a team you work with and, your teammates aren't showing up to say, hey, are you doing okay? Is there anything I can do? Then that doesn't feel great either. But is that the company's fault or is that your team's fault?
Yeah, I'd say we can start anywhere. Right? There's no act too small. So it could be your team, but if you can have a leader that is promoting pro-social leadership, kind leadership, being empathetic on how we treat each other and our customers, right? We want to be good to our customers. We want to be kind to our customers as well. That's how we keep our customers. And so at any point in any level in a company, it's valuable and it's important. But when we look from a change management perspective, management buy-in obviously is a huge piece, right? So if the CEO is acting in one way and harming people who are being kind or being thoughtful, it's much more difficult for the mid-level managers or employees to act in the way they want. And we also have to think about not everyone has the opportunity to act the way they want because they may have a fear of losing their job. And one person losing their job could be far more detrimental than another person losing their job. So these are all the things we have to take into account when we're looking at someone, because it's not just, hey, why didn't you do the right thing, the kind thing? There's a lot of reasons people take action, and we need to take those into consideration. And that's a part of being a kind leader, is really understanding why someone might take one action versus another, or as a kind person.
Yeah. I hear a lot about knowledge hoarding, right? And people are nervous for their jobs. They want to make sure that they have the information that keeps them indispensable. And so, I mean, it feels like it could be, I mean, I can see I could see the argument for it being a slippery slope, right? Where, like, I don't know, like if I am too kind and I share too much and I am too much of a team player, then I'm going to be out of a job.
I haven't run across that, but it is a thing that happens, right? They just might not have been, because the level of people I interviewed in general were okay with mentoring, right? So I think mentoring is a very huge act of kindness, right? We're taking our time, and some people that are billed hourly, like I interviewed a lawyer recently, and she's saying when she gets mentored by another lawyer, it's incredible because it's literally taking time away from the bottom line. Like, this person chose to spend their time with me instead of billing a client. This is not a billable thing, right? So we look at mentoring as a huge act of kindness, because you are actually not only being kind by giving me data, but you're also foregoing some money in your own pocket. And that's a choice that you're making for long-term benefits that this person will probably bring a lot more into the firm, so you will have benefits. So they're foregoing those short-term benefits for these long-term benefits. But when it comes to people using you and being unkind, absolutely, it happens, right? You want to assume the best in people, and that really does help. But at the end of the day, sometimes people will take advantage of people, period. And the only advice that I can give myself and others is don't let that one bad apple change who you are, right? And if I'm kind to someone and they're awful back, I'm going to be like, okay, I'm not happy about it. And it feels terrible. But I don't want them to change how I act the next time I meet someone who needs help, because that means their negativity is rubbing off on me instead of my positivity rubbing off on them. So don't let that happen. And it's hard because you're like, I cannot believe I spent all this time helping this person and they did something bad. And you're like, ooh. But it's the reality of life.
I'll have that knee-jerk reaction where I am taking on their negativity, and then all of a sudden I'll be like, wait a minute. Like, I can't control how they act, but I can control how I act, and I can control how I choose to show up. But it does take me a minute to be like, oof, like I got to catch myself in the middle of that thought, right? To be able
It's human, right?
Yes.
We are human, and we can only do the best we can in that moment. And we can't always show up as our best selves. So that's another thing about kindness, is be kind to yourself. Give yourself some grace. We're not perfect. I know I'm not. I'm assuming most of the people listening are not perfect, right? We can't always control a knee-jerk reaction. You're like, what? And then like, okay, breathe. All right, that person that cut me off in the car, maybe they're rushing to the hospital. I don't know their story, right? I don't like being cut off, and I'm not thrilled right now. But instead of being angry, I'm going to say I have empathy for them. And let's be honest, they could be terrible. But I don't know that. So no. I'm not going to let it ruin my day.
My favorite thing to ask is what else could be true, right? Like, that person's a jerk. What else could be true? Maybe they're just having a bad day. I don't know. Yeah. When you were looking specifically in businesses, corporations, things like that, what were some of the things that qualified as kindness? You mentioned mentoring. What else? What counts as kindness in the workplace?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing is truthfulness, right? Showing up with truth. That is one of the kindest things you could do in the world, is be truthful. And there's always that little extra, truth with empathy, right? I believe in directness. That's how I speak. But I also want to make sure that I'm speaking to your culture and who you are. So you might not take my directness as being mean, right? Because that's not why I'm here. If I'm telling you the truth, it's to make sure you know the truth and to make sure that whatever that data can do for you, it does, versus either not telling you the truth or lying. Like, all those things are unkind. But truth with empathy is very powerful. And when we talk about business, that's how we should show up to have successful businesses. We're not going to hide things. We are going to be truthful, but we're going to also come with solutions versus just pointing out problems. So if you see a problem, it's, here's a problem that I see. Here are some potential solutions. Or, wow, I don't even know a solution. Maybe we can brainstorm a solution together. So truthfulness with empathy and problem solving and brainstorming together is important.
leaving room for collaboration, teamwork, those sorts of things. And I think that sometimes problems that we can work on a solution together with end up creating a bond with, between ourselves. Have you found that to be true?
Yeah, I mean, teamwork, as I say, teamwork is the dream work, right?
I knew you were going there. Teamwork
yeah,
is the dream work.
if you're able to collaborate, it does build a relationship with your team, with your coworkers, with your manager, whatever that might be. You learn how each other thinks, and it's important to think differently. And that comes down to something that people might call psychological safety, where I'm allowed to brainstorm things that may sound, quote, stupid, but they might be the most amazing thing in the world. And companies that show high levels of psychological safety and allow you to say, no, I don't agree, I do agree, have differing views, are more innovative. And when you're more innovative, you typically will probably make more money, right? So you want to think about that. When we come together to collaborate, let's think. And you can disagree with me. For me, you can always disagree with me. I'm not necessarily going to change what I do because you disagree with me. But absolutely, if I say something insane, tell me. If I have a spelling error, tell me. I don't want to go live with a spelling error and you'd be like, well, I saw that. Why didn't you tell me? Well, you didn't ask. Absolutely call me out at all times. And I'm either going to say, oh, I did that on purpose, or, oh, shit, right?
There's a woman named Lisa Turkhurst who says the tweaking in the private is the saving in the public. And I love that, right? To be a truth teller in the private where it's just you and me and you can say, hey, I think you spelled that wrong, or I think that maybe you're thinking, maybe let's think through your thinking a little bit about that. Like, for goodness sakes, yes, tell me in the private so that before I go public on something. Yeah. So
yes. That's always insane to me, is if somebody posts something and somebody will write publicly, like, this is spelled wrong or something. Just write them a note. Come on. Like, why are you calling them out publicly? Like, be kind, tell someone, help them. Like, sometimes I find things on people's websites that are incorrect and I might write them, be like, hey, you have a spelling error on your website.
yes.
Why not?
Yes. Let me know. Exactly. Yep. So you have traveled extensively and talked to people extensively. What sorts of pieces of kindness translate cross-culturally and what pieces don't?
Yeah, it's interesting. So for my investing in kindness interviews, I do them over Zoom. So I haven't traveled physically for those. But for my Love Is research, I traveled to physically 26 countries in 17 states. And in my life, I've traveled to over 100 countries around the world. And I've interviewed people from all over the globe and really love learning about humans. And things do translate. Like simplicity of showing up for someone, offering hospitality. But certain things that are very culturally specific, I interviewed a leader who was like, I was working with a different culture and I wanted to give them the good seat in the car, which was the front seat to me, and to them, that's the worst seat. Like, they want to sit in the back, right? So you try to be kind and then you mess up. But usually, again, it's giving each other grace, where some people don't know the culture, so they make mistakes. And if you're trying, that's great. And to me, as long as you try and you make a mistake, it's okay. Let's learn together. And you have to be okay with being corrected. And I think that's a thing where I see sometimes people have a hard time with, is being okay with being wrong. And that to me is a kindness to yourself. Be okay with being wrong. It's okay to mess up. Just listen to the feedback and say, oh, in your culture, we want to do this thing. And now I understand. Maybe I'll go read a little bit more, or maybe you and I can sit for an hour and you can tell me these things that are an archetype of working in this culture, because that will help me a lot. And then it comes again to what you said, building that relationship. And how you're building this bond with this person that took time to share their culture with you. And if you mess up, you can go to them and laugh about it and be like, oh, look, this thing I did. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, that's definitely a thing you don't want to do in this culture, right? And it becomes, again, about building relationships. And that is a beautiful thing.
So I, Amanda, do a lot of speaking in companies and things like that, and have since 2011. And what I found is that kindness doesn't sell. Companies do not want to hire me to come in and talk about kindness. They want to hire me to come in and talk about resilience and burnout and mindset and perspective and all of these other words that really dance around what we're talking about here today, which is kindness. Did any of the people you interview talk about that kindness, it's that they don't have the ability to invest in kindness. They have to invest in culture.
Well, I think anyone who comes to me is interested in the term investing in kindness. And so they're drawn to come interviews. I'm not really going out and just finding random people. They either will find me or people I know and they'll say, oh yeah, I want to do an interview. And in business, we don't really use the word kindness. And I think that's why the term investing in kindness is interesting, because even in academic research, it's looking at pro-social leadership. It's looking at all these different terms. It's not looking at, there's no academic research that says investing in kindness, right? And so you need to understand how we define kindness, and that's what you said at the beginning. For me, it is about being truthful with empathy. It's about showing up. It's about building trust. And all of these things are words that we use, and what they do mean is being a kind leader or being a kind investor when we look at what companies we invest in.
So how long have you been doing this particular research, and how long will it continue to go?
Yeah, so I started in March of last year, and that was, so I launched it on my birthday.
2025?
Yeah, so I like to, I launched another project on my birthday, 5 years prior. I'm the founder of Women in Exploration, and, during COVID, I wanted to do something fun for my birthday, and I launched that project. So I was like, oh, this would be a fun birthday project, investing in kindness. So a year in, so this past March, I hit my 100 interviews. So I met the goal of 100, and now I am still taking some interviews and then deciding if I want to just finish the blog, which I'm still writing from the past interviews, or do I also want to change that into a book, or do I want to build a model? I love math. I love investment models, and the concept of how we invest our time, money, and resources in the good and still make a financial return is something that interests me as well. So I could end after I finish the blogs, or I may bounce onto another piece of this project.
I'm dying to know, do you have a day job?
Yes. So I also am a consultant. So I consult and I'm an executive coach. I also run an accelerator for startups based in Germany right now. And I am doing another startup myself called Elefari. So it's a storytelling platform that is based on my Love Is research.
I love it because you love stories. What does
I love
Elefari
stories.
mean?
And so I was thinking of a cool name. And elephants have good memories, and they're a matriarchal society. And we think about passing down stories through the matriarch. And the concept was really fun for me. And elephants are cute. I mean, come on. And so I came up with the name Elefari. It's like a story safari. And so we'll see. I have an MVP, and now we're building a more robust version for both B2C and B2B.
Excellent. Neat. Okay. What haven't I asked you that you want to tell us about?
I don't know. The world is a big place. There's lots of stuff going on. And I think it's important, as we talked about, being kind to ourselves, but being kind to our employees, our customers, and really understanding that every small act matters. And, when you think about recycling, some people might say, not enough people in my community are recycling. What does it matter that I recycle? It matters, right? Everything you do absolutely matters. And I think that's one of the important things when it comes to being kind to Earth. It's another thing we think about investing in kindness. It's not a small thing. It's investing in our friends, our family, our companies, our Earth, our animals. All of these things are really important to take the time to think about what our actions mean and how they impact. Also, when we think about investing in businesses, I encourage people to really think about what we not only invest in as investors, but also as people who purchase. We all have purchasing power at some point and at some level, some of us more than others. And when we buy products that have a more positive impact on society and Earth, it matters. Again, you all have power in your hand every day with every decision. And it's not always easy to do all of the research, but it's becoming more accessible, which I think is really a beautiful thing. But we can think about these things, right? Like, what are my ethics, and how do I want to use my dollars to show my ethics? And I think that is something that we all can do. We can all sit at home and say, these are the 5 things that are really important to me. And it doesn't mean you have to go donate money or even donate your time, which is also nice if you have time to volunteer, but not everybody does. But everybody is buying food. Everybody is buying something. And you can put your money to good use for the things you need to eat every day.
And how do you figure out that? How do you research where you're going to spend your money?
So for me, I am a vegan, so I already know that I'm ethically bound to not do certain things, right? And so that makes it almost easier for me because I won't buy leather products. I am not going to buy a whole group of anything tested on animals. Like, these are all the things that are fairly easy for me, right? So it really depends what your ethics are on how easy it is to make those decisions. But it is also really can be very complicated, right? You don't know the supply chain for everything that you buy. And that's when it comes to, none of us are perfect. So every little thing matters, right? So I do my best to try to find out some data. And maybe when I'm buying a backpack, I'm going to find a company that I think is doing something good for society, right? And there are labels and there are different institutions that'll say, well, they give one back to X, Y, or Z. And so that makes it easier. So if you are really busy and you don't have a lot of time, pick the easiest things that you could do, right? And then you can move and be like, you know what, I really enjoyed that. Maybe I want to do the next level and do a little bit more research. Like, I'm buying sneakers. What are the most ethical sneakers I can buy for myself or my kid or my dog?
Yeah. I love the dog, right? Just the fact that can buy your dog sneakers these days says something about our world too.
I mean, you got to keep it kind to your animals. Got to keep your dog's feet safe.
That's right. I was visiting with a friend once and we were talking about elephants, and we were talking about washing the elephant. And my friend had said, I just feel like when it comes to goodness in the world, it's like washing the elephant. And I said, well, what do you mean? And they said, well, you might be up there at the front left foot, and you might be the person who is donating blood. Maybe that's your thing, right? And so that's how you wash the elephant. That's how you help our world, is by you're donating blood. But I might be on the other side of the world, or the other side of the elephant, on the back right foot or whatever, and I don't even know that you're over there doing that thing, but I'm doing my thing over here, and maybe my thing is loving pets well, right? And so eventually you get enough of us who are washing different parts of the elephant, and the elephant becomes clean. And I just thought that was a really beautiful way to say, like, do what your heart tells you to do.
And elephants are cute, as we've already established, so that's amazing.
That's right. When you said the elephari, I was like, oh, wait a minute. There's something about elephants and loving our world that goes together, that I'm pulling from 10 years ago, that I was like, wait a minute, I had a conversation with somebody about this once. It was very cool. If you could get every founder, every investor in the world to believe just one thing about kindness, what would it be?
I think it comes down to, again, you and your actions matter. You can change the world for the better, so why not? Right? You get to make that choice. When you build a company, when you invest in a company, you get to choose. This is who I want to show up as, so why not show up in a kind way that changes the world for the better?
Beautiful.
So if everybody did that, I mean, come on, it would be easy.
Right? We're all washing the elephant together. Yep.
I think it's also really important that, you said we all do our little thing. And I think it's important to try not to judge other people for what they can and cannot do, and show up looking at yourself instead of comparing yourself to others. Because again, we don't all have the same amount of time, the same amount of money, the same amount of resources, the same amount of education. We don't all have the same thing. So you judge yourself on how you want to be, not compare to other people. And that's not only kind to yourself, it's kinder to the world when we don't compare ourselves. And don't look at other people and say, why isn't he or she doing this thing, right? How can I help them learn? Maybe they want to do that thing, right? So it's more, again, it comes down to that collaboration and saying, hey, this is what I do. Do you want to know more about it? Because I'd love to help you learn more about what I do. And people can say yes or no. But somebody might say, I do want to learn more about how to do that better. Tell me. And now you have a new friend, right?
Yes, yes. Well, because the minute that we appoint ourselves as judge and jury of ourselves and everybody else, we have moved out of the kindness sphere, right? And so
exactly. Exactly. Well said.
Anything else you want to add that I haven't asked you about today?
Oh, I've just really enjoyed speaking with you, and I do like the idea of thinking of all the different cultures of kindness. And so try to learn something new today about a culture and kindness, because the more we know about each other, the more powerful we are. I always say diversity of thought is how we push forward great innovation, and that's with everything, even in kindness. So let's think about different types of people and what kindness might mean to them, and then we're more powerful together.
Well, and I just want to say thank you, because it was an honor to be able to add my little bit of thought to your research project as well. So I appreciate you interviewing me for that. That was very cool.
Oh, that was great. Loved having you, and anyone listening here. Come on, let's chat.
You're still accepting interviews with people?
I am still accepting interviews.
Okay, we will put
Share your story with me.
We will put that in the chat as well. Amanda, thank you for being here, for proving that kindness isn't a soft option. It's strategy, it's strength. You can learn more about Amanda's work at investinginkindnessproject.com. I will drop the links in the show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and until then, remember, what you look for is what you'll see.